Okay, a very good morning to all of you. Today I'm here with another topic of normal periodontium. The last time we had discussed was on gingiva. I have taken gingiva in three parts, wherein we have discussed the anatomy of gingiva in the first part, then moving towards the gross histology of the gingiva in our second part, and third part was on clinical features of normal healthy gingiva, right? So we have covered gingiva thoroughly. Now we are moving towards our next topic, which is periodontal ligament. All right, I'll just enlarge the screen. Okay, so basically, what is periodontal ligament? This periodontal ligament is basically also known as periodontal membrane, alveolodental ligament, desmodont, pericementum, and gomphosis. It is mainly composed of complex and highly cellular connective tissue which surrounds the tooth root and connects it to the inner walls of the alveolar bone. So it's basically a connection between your tooth root and the alveolar bone. Ligaments usually connect soft tissue to the hard tissue. Always remember that. But periodontal ligament is one such exception wherein it is connecting two hard tissues, right? Your cementum and your alveolar bone. Always remember that. Tendons are located between two hard tissues. The connection between bone and another bone is tendon, while connection between a bone and a soft tissue or a bone or a muscle is a ligament. In case of a periodontal ligament, it's an exception wherein two hard tissue structures are connected by a ligament. Okay, periodontal ligament, it is hourglass shaped, which is thinnest in the middle and broader in the corona-apical regions. You have to remember this. Commonly asked MCQ question: which is an hourglass shaped structure in a periodontium? Which has the hourglass shaped structure? So it is periodontal ligament. Also, another commonly asked MCQ question is the average width of periodontal ligament, which is 0.2 millimeters. Right. So let's see the development. Now, how it is developing. So what happens is, as the when the crown emerges from the oral cavity, the fibroblasts of the dental follicle cells becomes activated, right? So once they're activated, fibroblast starts producing collagen fibers. Okay, we know that collagen fibers are so important in periodontium, right? We studied in gingiva also. We'll be studying about these collagen fibers in cementum and alveolar bone also. So collagen is very, very important. So fibroblast starts producing collagen fibers. Initially, these fibers lack the shape and orientation. Okay. After that, they acquire their orientation and the proper desired shape. So first, the collagen bundles appears in the region immediately apical to the cemento-enamel junction. Right? You know what is cemento-enamel junction? It is the region where your enamel and the cementum is meeting. So it is that cemento-enamel junction. It's in the word itself. Right? So the first bundle of collagen fibers appears immediately below the cemento-enamel junction, and it gives rise to the gingivo-dental group of fibers. Right? So the first form fibers are the gingivo-dental group of fibers. As the tooth eruption progresses, additional fibers get attached to the newly formed bone and cementum. So again, from here also you get one MCQ question, which is the first formed fiber in your normal periodontium. So it is gingivo-dental group of fibers which is formed. After that, only your apical, transeptal, oblique, all that group of fibers appears, right? Okay, speaking about the constituents of your PDL, we have cellular elements and extracellular elements here. Under extracellular elements, we have periodontal fibers and the ground substance. While in the case of ground substance, we also have proteoglycans and glycoproteins. So in cellular elements, under cellular elements, we have 5 types of cells. We have synthetic cells, we have resorptive cells, epithelial cell rests of Malleus, immune system cells, and progenitor cells, right? So under synthetic cells and resorptive cells, you have another 3 categories of cells. You have fibroblasts, osteoblasts, and cementoblasts. So all the blast cells, right? Synthetic cells are what? They are synthesizing. They are helping in synthesis of the ligament. Okay. So, and resorptive, which is removing. So under resorptive, you have all the clast cells, except fibroblasts, which is an exception. Fibroblasts acts as both synthetic and resorptive cells. Okay. So remember this is another commonly asked MCQ question, which is one cell which is synthetic, both synthetic and resorptive. So it is fibroblast, right? So you have fibroblasts, osteoclasts, and cementoclasts. Now fibroblasts are the most predominant in the connective tissue cells, and it's ectomesenchymal in origin. It also has a spindle shape. It is spindle shaped cells. Another spindle shaped cells is cementoblast. It is also spindle shaped. As I've already mentioned, fibroblasts have dual role. It has synthetic as well as resorptive role. That means it is a formative as well as a resorptive element in your tissue. They are synthesizing. Fibroblasts, see, break the words itself. Blast is synthesizing cells. Fibro means fibers. So they're synthesizing collagen fibers. They're synthesizing and degrading, because fibroblast has a dual role. So it is synthesizing as well as degrading the collagen fibers. Cementoblast. The another synthetic cell is cementoblast. It is actively secreting the organic matter from cementum. Cementoclasts are the mononuclear cells resembling osteoclasts and located in the house-shaped lacunae and associated with resorption of cementum. All right, all the clastic cells here are resorptive cells basically. Then osteoclasts, again same thing. Osteoblasts are responsible for bone formation or deposition. Osteoclasts for bone resorption. Epithelial cell rests of molluscs. Now they are the remnants of Hartwig's epithelial root sheath. They are more commonly found in the cervical and the apical areas of the PDL. PDL is periodontal ligament. So epithelial cell rests of molluscs, first thing to remember is they are the remnants of Hartwig's epithelial root sheath. Okay, and they are more commonly seen in cervical and the apical regions of your periodontal ligament. They play a very significant role in maintenance of the PDL space. You know, there's lamina dura. We'll be speaking about lamina dura more in detail when I'll be teaching on alveolar bone. But just remember that you have something called as a lamina dura, and then you have root cementum. Between that, there is a commonly found space, that is your PDL space. So maintenance of the PDL space is because of epithelial cell rests of molluscs. And they may later contribute in pathogenesis of the periodontal pocket formations also. Progenitor cells. So progenitor cells are basically the mesenchymal cells. They're the undifferentiated mesenchymal cells. That means they are stem cells which have not been differentiated into any germ cell. You know, they have not been differentiated to any daughter germ cell, either cementoblast or fibroblast. So they are very pristine cells in very layman term, if I have to say, they are pristine cells, stem cells. They are capable of self-renewal and differentiation into various cell lineages. Then, speaking about the extracellular elements, PDL is made up of two types of fibers. Okay, PDL is made up of two types of fibers. You have oxytalin fibers and you have collagen fibers. Oxytalin fibers are immature elastic fibers, and collagen, as I have already cleared it out, it is very, very important. Collagen fiber is very, very important extracellular element present in the normal periodontium, and especially in that also type 1. So collagen is a protein which is composed of different amino acids, the most important of which are glycine, proline, hydroxylysine, and hydroxyproline, and responsible for the maintenance of the framework and the tone of the tissue. Tonicity means elasticity. So to maintain the elasticity, you need collagen fibers. The principal fibers are mainly composed of type 1 collagen. Almost everywhere in your normal periodontium, be it gingiva, PDL, cementum, or alveolar bone, whenever asked collagen, you have to obviously remember type 1 collagen is the most common. It's good enough if you could remember other collagen types, but collagen type 1 you have to always remember. Then the principal periodontal fibers. So there are these are the principal periodontal fibers. You have transeptal fibers, you have alveolar crest group, you have horizontal group of fibers, interradicular, oblique, and apical. Very easy to remember by looking at the diagram itself. Transeptal means it's going across the septum. See, here in the horizontal group, the fibers are being attached from the root cementum to the bone in a horizontal fashion. While in the case of oblique, if you can see, there's an oblique, there's a little angulated direction of the fibers. So they are oblique group of fibers. Apical is located near the apex. So all the fibers are attaching the root cementum to the alveolar bone, the inner wall of the alveolar bone, right? Except for the transeptal group of fibers, which is running from one one root cementum to the other root cementum above the root septa, above the bone septa. Okay, so they are not attaching anywhere to the bone. They are running over the bone, and from root to root they are attaching. This is another MCQ question. Which is one fiber which does not engage with the alveolar bone? So that is transseptal fiber. Now transseptal fibers extends interproximally over the alveolar bone crest and are embedded in the cementum of the adjacent teeth. Clear? Reconstructed even after destruction. This is one such, again, excuse me. This is one such fiber which is reconstructed even after destruction. What do you mean even after destruction? That means during flap surgeries, when you give incisions and you elevate the flap, even after that, when you reposition the flap, these are the first fibers to form. They get reconstructed even after destruction. These are the part of both gingiva and PDL. How is it a part of gingiva and PDL? Because it is the principal fiber of the periodontal ligament, as well as it is not getting attached to the bone, so it is part of a gingiva. So it's part of both gingiva and PDL. Alveolar crest group of fibers. Where are alveolar crest groups? This, right? It extends obliquely from the cementum beneath the junctional epithelium to the alveolar crest. See, they're going in this direction. From root cementum till alveolar bone. They prevent extrusion of the teeth. What is extrusion? Popping out, right? Popping out of the socket is extrusion. So it prevents the extrusion of the tooth and resists lateral tooth movement. The horizontal group of fibers extends at right angle to the long axis, right? This is a right angle. I hope you know what is right angle. Okay, it is going parallel, it is going perpendicular to the long axis of the tooth from the cementum to the alveolar bone. These fibers resist horizontal pressure against the crown of the tooth. So horizontal fibers resist horizontal pressure, right? Alveolar crest group of fiber resists lateral movements. Then you have oblique fibers. They extend from the cementum in a coronal direction obliquely towards the bone. Alveolar crest fibers and the oblique fiber differences. Alveolar crest goes little apically towards the bone. Oblique fiber goes to coronally towards the bone. That is the difference in direction. Oblique fibers constitutes the largest group in the PDL, and they bear the masticatory stresses. Again, a commonly asked Viva and MCQ question is, which is one which among the periodontal fibers, which is the largest group of fibers? That is oblique group of fibers. Apical fibers radiate in an irregular manner from the cementum to the alveolar bone at the apical region of the socket. They do not occur on incompletely formed roots, and they prevent tipping of the tooth, and it resists luxation. So the fibers which is helping preventing luxation, while you are extracting the tooth, you encounter difficulty in luxating the tooth, is because of your apical fibers. Then you have interradicular fibers. So interradicular fibers fan out from the cementum to the bone in the furcation area. They are interradicular. That means between the roots. So they fan out from the cementum to the bone present in the furcation area of the multi-rooted tooth. So interradicular fibers will not be present in a single rooted tooth. So never confuse and write that single rooted tooth have interradicular fibers. And they also prevent tooth luxation. Then you have Sharpie's fibers. So what are Sharpie's fibers? They are the terminal portions of the principal fibers which are inserted into the cementum and bone. They are called Sharpie's fibers. The terminal portions of the principal fibers inserted into the cementum and the bone are called Sharpie's fibers. In 1846, Scottish anatomist William Sharpie described these fibers and hence called Sharpie's fibers. Ground substance, the next extracellular element, ground substance, commonly found between the fibers. Wavy fibers have spaces between them that is composed of ground substance. It is amorphous, non-fibrous, non-cellular matrix forming the major component of periodontal ligament. The main constituents are protein, carbohydrate, macromolecules, and further divided into protoglycans and glycoproteins. Proteoglycans are the large group of extracellular macromolecules composed of protein core with attachment of glycosaminoglycan chain, GAG chains. They are involved in regulation of the collagen fibers in the periodontal ligament. Glycoproteins are also the macromolecules with carbohydrate core, glyco and proteins. So, right, so it has a combination of carbohydrate and the protein. They promote addition of fibroblasts to the extracellular matrix. Cementicles. This cementicles I'll be dealing more in detail when we will be talking about cementum. So just to understand, they are small globular masses and they originate from the foci of degenerating epithelial cell rest of Melissus. So what is the function of PDL? You have 5 functions of PDL, very important Viva questions also: supportive, sensory, nutritive, formative, and homeostasis. Supportive, sensory, nutritive, formative, and homeostasis. We'll just talk about this now in detail. So supportive. One second. Okay, so supportive. They provide soft tissue casing. PDL provides a soft tissue casing to protect the vessels and the nerves from injury by mechanical forces. Next, transmission of occlusal forces to the bone, attachment of the teeth to the bone, maintenance of gingival tissues in their proper relationship to the teeth, resistance to the impact of occlusal forces, that is shock absorption. These are the 5 supportive functions of PDL. Soft tissue casing, transmission of occlusal forces to the bone, attachment of the teeth to the bone, maintenance of gingival tissues in their proper relationship, and resistance of impact of occlusal forces, that is shock absorption. Then, regarding this, you have 2 theories. That is, one is tensional theory and one is viscoelastic theory. These theories will be taught to you in your orthodontic classes also. So you don't have to worry about this. And please read. I expect you to please go and read these 2 theories. If you encounter a difficulty in that, we can have a discussion. Then nutritive function. The periodontal ligament supplies nutrients to the cementum, bone, and gingiva through the blood supply, through the blood vessels. Okay, so this is the nutritive function. Sensory. How is it providing sensory functions? So PDL is capable of transmitting tactile pressure and pain sensations by the trigeminal pathways. So you need to know the trigeminal nerve in detail. This has already been taught to you in first year of your BDS. So revise that. Then formative and remodeling functions. Cells of the PDL participate in the formation and resorption of cementum and bone. How? Because cell, which cell? Fibroblast. Remember, there it has dual role, synthesizing and resorptive role. So cells of the PDL participate in formation and resorption of cementum and bone, which occurs during physiologic tooth movement, during the accommodation of the periodontium to occlusal forces, and during the repair of injuries. PDL is constantly undergoing remodeling. Old cells and fibers are broken down and replaced by new cells. Why? Because it has both synthetic and the resorptive elements in it. Then hemostasis. So what is the blood supply of a periodontal ligament? Every tissue has a blood supply except cementum. It is because cementum is avascular mesenchymal tissue. Every tissue in your normal periodontium has blood supply except cementum. So this periodontal ligament also has a blood supply. It has 3 vessels. It has apical vessels, then penetrating vessels from the alveolar bone, and anastomosing vessels from the gingiva. If you remember the periosteal vessels that we have, supraperiosteal vessels, right? We have spoken about that in gingiva class. So that same vessels anastomoses with the PDL vessels. Nerve supply. Sensory nerves that supply the periodontium arise from maxillary and mandibular division of trigeminal nerve. Again, trigeminal nerve is very, very important. Please go and brush up. So with this, we have come to the conclusion of this chapter. This chapter, periodontal ligament, is very, very important. Most commonly asked questions from this is the hourglass shape, then what is the average width, then what are the principal periodontal fibers, then what are the functions of PDL, alveolar, blood supply, nerve supply. That's it. These are the major headings under which you have to remember this chapter and write your answers. So we'll continue the next class on cementum. Hopefully you have understood this chapter. Please go and revise it. Thank you so much.